ChatGPT said, I never thought a pair of work boots, my own, by the way, could trigger a 911 call just by stepping onto a brick walkway. But apparently, to some people, dirty boots mean dirty intentions. Yeah, that happened. It was a Tuesday, hot as hell, and I was just walking to get sworn into city council. Except, according to Karen, the unofficial sheriff of Willowbrook Heights, I looked more like someone about to rob the place than someone about to represent it. Now let me back up a sec. I'm Marcus. Well, Councilman Marcus now, but back then, just Marcus M. Thornfield, neighborhood grease monkey. I'd been working at Henderson's Auto Repair since I was 16. Spent more time under cars than I did in bed, honestly. But I've always been the kind of guy who knew the names of his neighbors, who showed up for town meetings even if they were boring, who actually gave a damn about the potholes nobody else did. So when they opened up the community council elections, I figured, why not me? Anyway, the morning started like any other. My coveralls were soaked in motor oil, sweat on my neck, wiping down my hands every few minutes even though I knew it wouldn't matter. I kept checking the clock. Every damn tick louder than the last. 2 p.m. couldn't come fast enough. That's when I was supposed to walk into the community center and get sworn in. I'd been dreaming about it for 3 months straight. Ever since I won that election by just 18 votes. That's when I grabbed the manila envelope from my locker. Inside, papers that would make everything official. My name, my new title, the oath I'd be taking. It felt heavier than it should have, like it was carrying all the years I'd spent being overlooked, underestimated, and talked over. And I shoved it into my jacket pocket, took a deep breath, and started walking. Now, Willowbrook Heights, it's the kind of neighborhood where every lawn looks like it's been manicured by angels. The kind where HOA rules are stricter than most marriages. The kind of place where people say good fences make good neighbors, but what they mean is stay on your side. And that's where I met her. Karen. I don't actually know her real name, and honestly, I don't care to. She was standing at the edge of the HOA office's little garden, sun hat, clipboard, purse clutched like it held national secrets. And the second she saw me, she froze. Like I'd just stepped out of a wanted poster. She narrowed her eyes at me, clutched that HOA handbook like it was the Bible, and started yelling across the brick path. Excuse me, sir. This is private property. You'd think I was dragging a body instead of a beat-up folder. I told her I had an appointment upstairs, city business. I said, trying to keep it civil. But she was already on her phone, talking fast to 911 like I was some kind of threat. And here's the kicker. I could hear her describe me as a suspicious male, possibly loitering. Appears to be a laborer. A laborer. Like that was a crime. I don't know if it was the boots, the jacket, or just my face, but she was convinced she was saving the neighborhood from some intruder. Meanwhile, I was 2 minutes away from becoming one of the people making decisions about this neighborhood. So I just stood there, half annoyed, half amused, letting her do her thing. You gotta pick your battles, right? That's when Officer Gutierrez showed up, small-town cop, big presence, and thankfully, a decent guy. We'd gone to high school together, actually. He pulled up, looked at me, and his whole face shifted from ready for trouble to you've got to be kidding me. Marcus, he said. Yup, I smiled, pulling the envelope out of my jacket. About to get sworn in. I wish you could have seen Karen's face when he said, Ma'am, he's the new councilman. Her jaw hit the curb. She sputtered, tried to backpedal, said something about how she was just trying to be vigilant. You know what I wanted to say? You were being something, all right. But I just gave her a nod, walked right past her into that building like I'd been doing it my whole life. The upstairs hall was quiet. Sunlight through the stained glass, floorboards creaking under each step. It felt sacred somehow. Judge Whitmore was waiting with the city clerk, ready to do the ceremony. She smiled at me, warm and proud. I raised my right hand, swore the oath, signed the papers, and just like that, I was Councilman Thornfield. But here's where the twist comes in, because I didn't run for office just for the title. See, this whole thing started because of a zoning issue. The garage I worked at, they tried to push us out, claimed we didn't meet the aesthetic standards of the area. That's HOA code for we don't want your kind here, even if they won't say it out loud. I knew I had to get a seat at the table if I wanted a fighting chance to protect small businesses like ours. And wouldn't you know it, Karen was part of the HOA board trying to shut us down. She'd been fighting behind the scenes, letters, complaints, code violations, all under the radar. But now, she had to sit across from me during joint meetings. She had to say "Councilman" every time she addressed me. And the look in her eyes every time she did, priceless. But not everything was smooth sailing. A few weeks in, one of the council members, Thompson, this slick guy with perfect hair and too many cufflinks, pulled me aside. Said things like, "You're shaking the boat a bit too hard, Marcus. Maybe slow it down." And I just looked at him and said, maybe it's time someone did. The final vote on the zoning issue came in September. Packed room. Karen sitting in the second row, arms folded so tight it looked painful. And when I stood up to speak, I didn't hold back. I talked about my father building this community, literally. About the people who get ignored in these meetings. About how not everyone can afford manicured lawns and Italian tiles, but they still deserve a voice. The vote passed. Barely, but it passed. The garage stayed. And when I walked out of that meeting, the same brick walkway under my boots, I saw Karen standing by her little garden again. This time, she didn't say a word, just watched that. I guess you could say justice got served, in work boots and motor oil. But let's be real, the battle's far from over. There'll always be folks like Karen and Thompson, clutching their rulebooks and smiling through their teeth. And there'll always be people like me, showing up with grit under our nails and something real to fight for. So now I've got a question for you. Was Karen just doing her job, or was she doing too much? Where's the line between protecting your neighborhood and policing your neighbors? Drop your thoughts below. I really want to know what side you'd be on if you saw me walking down that path. Turns out, the real story didn't end on that walkway. That was just the opening act. Because a seat on city council, it's not a finish line, it's a front row ticket to the mess behind the curtain. And I was about to find out just how messy it really gets when you start messing with the HOA's little kingdom. Let me tell you about the Welcome Committee. Sounds harmless, right? Like something involving cookies and brochures. But nah, this was a group of 4 people, Karen included, who basically acted like they ran Willowbrook Heights. They called themselves the committee, but really, they were just a gatekeeping crew dressed in pastel cardigans and fake concern. Their real job? Keep things exactly how they liked it. Which meant no food trucks, no murals, no community gardens, no unauthorized garage sales. God forbid someone paint their mailbox the wrong shade of beige. 2 weeks after the zoning vote, I got a call from a woman named Maya. Single mom, moved into the neighborhood with her daughter a month ago. Said she was being fined for having a trampoline in her backyard. A trampoline. Her kid was 7. HOA rulebook said no permanent recreational structures visible above fence line. But it wasn't permanent, it folded down. Still, she got hit with a $300 violation and a threat of daily fees. She sounded tired. Not just tired like long day tired, exhausted. Said she'd already tried calling the HOA office twice. No response. I told her I'd stop by. I showed up the next morning. And guess who I found pacing in front of Maya's house with a tape measure? Karen. Measuring the trampoline height like she was calculating missile trajectories. She looked up and said, "Councilman Thornfield, this doesn't concern city business." I smiled real calm. That's where you're wrong. Because if you're using HOA rules to harass people unfairly, that's city business. She didn't like that, answered, "So I brought it to the next council session. Introduced a motion to create a residential equity oversight panel. Basically, a watchdog group that could step in when HOAs got out of hand. You'd think I proposed outlawing apple pie. People lost their minds. Thompson stood up and gave some long speech about property value integrity. Karen tried to claim it was an attack on tradition, but what they didn't count on was people showing up. Maya came. So did the older couple down the street who got fined for putting a bench under their tree. And Jamal, the local barber whose sidewalk chalk sign kept getting reported. People who'd never come to meetings before. They filled the room, spoke one by one. Some were nervous, some were furious, but all of them said the same thing. Enough was enough. Still, the vote didn't pass that night. It was close, but Thompson maneuvered a delay. Said we needed more data. Typical. that's when the twist hit. Late one night, about a week later, I got an email from someone anonymous. No name, no subject line, just a PDF attachment and 2 words in the body. Check this. The file? Internal HOA communications, somehow leaked, between Karen and 2 other committee members. They were bragging about finding Maya, joking about setting an example, even called me a PR stunt in coveralls. I sat there reading it at 1 a.m., my hands shaking, not out of anger, but because I knew this could change everything. But I also knew if I used it, things could get ugly. Real ugly.so I made a choice.at the next meeting. I didn't play the email right away. I started slow. I laid out the pattern, the data. I told real stories, faces people in that room knew. Then I paused, let the silence sit. Then I dropped the email, word for word, printed copies for the entire council. Karen turned pale. Thompson got up and left the room. No excuse, just vanished. And me? I just stood there and let the truth do what it does best, shine. The motion passed. 5-2. The oversight panel was approved. And suddenly, the welcome committee didn't feel so welcome. But here's the part one didn't expect. Karen didn't disappear. A few days later, I found her sitting on the steps of the community center. No sun hat, no clipboard, just her in a coffee cup that looked too big for her hands. She looked up as I approached and said, "You embarrassed me." I sat down beside her. "No," I said. "You did that." We sat in silence for a while. Then she asked, "Do you really think I'm a bad person?" I thought about it, and I told her the truth. "No, I think you care. I think you care so much it scared you. And when people get scared, they hold tighter to rules than they do to reason." She nodded, quietly. No fight left in her. That moment, honestly, that meant more to me than the vote did. Because it proved something. People can change. But only if someone calls it like it is. Now, the neighborhood's not perfect. Never will be. But we've got murals going up. Food trucks on weekends. Maya's daughter still bouncing on that trampoline every Saturday morning. And me? I still wear the boots. Still work at the garage part-time. Still get side eyes from some folks. But I also get stopped in the grocery store, on the sidewalk, by people saying, "Hey, thanks for speaking up." So here's the real question. What would you have done in my place? Would you have played nice to keep the peace? Or gone toe-to-toe with the gatekeepers? Let me know in the comments. Because I don't think this is just about Willowbrook Heights. This is about every neighborhood, everywhere, where power hides behind rules, and change starts with just one person walking a little too loud across a brick path. Yellow circle call to action. Let's open this up. Was the HOA doing its job, or did they go too far? What is the line between keeping order and keeping people out? Drop your take below, especially if you've dealt with HOAs yourself. Because stories like these, they're not rare, just rarely told out loud.